Hey guys, today we're going to work on some graphing. We're going to graph a wide variety of things. We'll start with on page 1, we'll start with 1a. So let's see if we can graph y equals x squared plus 8x minus 6. So this is a parabola. X, whenever it has an x squared, it's a parabola. And parabolas, first of all, when the a value is positive, open upward. If a was negative, it would be opening downward. Since we have a as 1, we know the parabola is going to look like that. That's important to know. The next thing we should find is called the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry is the line that cuts the parabola in half. We want to know where the middle of the parabola is. X equals negative b over 2a is the equation to find the axis of symmetry. So a is the coefficient of the x squared, it's 1. B is the coefficient of the x, it's 8. And c is the constant, that's negative 6. So we have negative 8 over 2 times 1. So that's negative 4. So we know that on a table for this parabola, negative 4 should be right in the middle. Negative 3, negative 2 will be on one side, negative 5, and negative 6 will be on the other. So then I would just use the calculator to verify that and find the other points. So if I type into the calculator y equals x squared plus 8x minus 6, and look at the table and put negative 4 in the middle of my table, what I should see is these opposite behaviors. See how the negative 13 matches up, negative 18 matches up, and so on. And then you just graph those points. The vertex is negative 4, negative 22. So you could just make a rough sketch from there. Negative 4, negative 22, and so on. It's going to kind of look like this. All right, let's try on the next page. Let's try letter C. So this is 1C. Y equals the absolute value of x minus 3 minus 1. So an absolute value looks like a V. And the general equation for an absolute value equation is A absolute value x minus h plus k. Once again, if A is positive, it's going to be opening up. If A is negative, it's going to be opening down. And HK is the vertex. Be very careful though. Notice that H is after a minus sign. Because I have a minus sign, this is 3. And K is negative 1. So that's my vertex. Now on another question, let me just make something up here on the side. If it said x plus 7 minus 1, the vertex would be, see how there's not a minus sign here? You would have to change it so that it's a minus sign. And then to do that, 7 is really subtracting negative 7. So h is negative 7 and k is negative 1. So be very careful. I would always just use your calculator to double check. So to finish this one off, we know that 3, negative 1 is our vertex, and it's opening upward. So you could type this in the calculator and find some other points. To type it in the calculator, you're going to hit y equals, and then hit math, go over to num, and it's number 1. So let me show you. Y equals math, go over to num, and it's number 1. It says absolute value. And inside the absolute value for this question, we're going to type in x minus 3 and on the outside of the absolute value, minus 1. And if you look at the table, 3, negative 1 should be right in the middle. And you can just graph those other points around it. And it will kind of look like this. All right, let's try letter F. Letter F is a radical. Y equals negative radical x minus 1 plus 4. Now the general equation for a radical is y equals a radical x minus h plus k. Now in this case, h is after a minus sign, so it's 1, 4 is the vertex. And again, use a calculator to double check, but because this is a negative, it's going to be going downward like this. If a was positive, it would be going up and to the right. And when a is negative, it goes down and to the right. So you could type that in your calculator and look up some points. Finally, let's graph some polynomials. How about letter G? And we'll work on this a little bit more on Thursday as well. Letter G says you have y equals x cubed plus 3x squared minus 4. So the first thing you want to know is if the degree is odd, the ends of the graph go in different directions. So it could look like this. That's if the lead coefficient is negative or is positive. Or it could look like this. That's if the lead coefficient is negative. Let me explain a little bit further. Because it's an odd, highest exponent of 3, and because the lead coefficient is 1, that means it's going to go like this. Whatever the lead coefficient tells, it tells you how the graph is going to exit. This graph is going to go up to leave the graph paper. This number here is the y-intercept, the constant. So we know it's going to hit the y-axis at negative 4. And on Thursday, we'll find the roots. But for right now, this 3 minus 1, that is the number of peaks and valleys. So what we're going to do also is we're going to talk about the x to the first term, 0x. This is the slope at the x-intercept. So because it's a 0, because there's no x to the first term, it's going to be horizontal. That's a slope of 0 is horizontal. If this was positive, it would go like this. If this was negative, the x to the first term, it would go like this. But for right now, we're just going to note these few things, and then we're going to make sure we have this many peaks and valleys. So I'm going to go up, back down, and then back up again. So there's one peak and one valley. So please let me know if you have any questions, and have a good day.